Good morning. I'm Brian Morse, Guide Desk Consulting. Today we're going to talk about feature lines and probably a whole lot more. But it's going to be a design process for designing a ditch. And what I'd like you to see is just more of the thought process that goes into it, and then some of the tools that you can tap into using Civil 3D. So we're going to start off with the drawing setup. I'll just briefly talk to you about how that was put together. And I'm going to assume that everybody is familiar with Civil 3D, like fundamental stuff, so we can get into some of the cooler tricks that maybe you just don't touch that often or haven't seen at all. So you can see the list of topics here. So I'm not going to read them off to you. Let's just take a quick look at the drawing setup. We're going to be working with a DRPRD, so that's a drainage design, proposed drainage drawing. This time I didn't use any external references. It's just all data references from various files that we had in this project. This is the same data set that we're using for the drainage manual. So the data set will look familiar to as you get into the drainage manual too. So this is what I had for kind of putting together the initial drawing. I split the view, and if you take a quick look at that, it kind of looks like this. So during the design process, we had laid out some drainage structures and pipes, connected them together, and they're dumping out into a pond. So if you want to just get familiar with the data set here, there's an alignment. The stationing starts here and increases towards the northwest. There's a drainage pond here which has its own surface. There's an existing ground surface which covers the larger area. And then there's a proposed finished ground surface for the road. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to fit a drainage ditch right in between the pond and the road, because the berm coming off of the pond pushes the water right into the street, so there's no grading. And you can take a look at the profile that we have here. There's the berm for the pond, and this is like the back of curb, and then here's our drainage structure. This is the pavement. So yeah, you know, and of course the two surfaces aren't really connected, but if you did a straight line connection between there, then you'd just be dumping water into the street. We don't want to do that. So we have a slope here that I think is a 4-to-1 slope coming up to the top of the berm, then it cuts across and goes down. So what I did is I just traced over that with a polyline, and then I mirrored that because I figured, well, you know, it's going to have 4-to-1 side slopes and it's going to have some kind of a flat bottom to it. So when I mirrored that, then I just dumped it right here to give you an idea of what we're trying to fit in. So now some of the tools that we can use for just investigating this shape of geometry is kind of neat. If you take a look at the Analyze tab of the ribbon, then there's this inquiry tool, and this can be helpful to you if you just whip that thing open in a palette, and you take a look at the drop-down list. There's stuff that we can use in a profile view. So let's check this out. If we wanted to do like profile view, elevation, and grade between points, see, because this is what I wanted to do, is I wanted to figure out, well, what's this grade going through here? What's the grade across the bottom? And, you know, if I drew it, then, you know, is it real precise? I don't know what it is. So let's just investigate. So if I do a clickety-click on that thing, and we take a look, we see that the alignment name is this, and the profile view name is that. So, and then we've got, you know, so all this inventory of statistics, but what we want to do is go from point 1 to point 2 and then have it list the results in here. So you can see that we get elevation, we get a distance, we get a grade, and a slope. So, you know, two different flavors of output there. And what we do is we just click on this little box right here, and then it says to specify the first profile view. And so what I'm going to do is I've got my running object snap set to perpendicular and nearest, because I was doing some other stuff, I'll just also include endpoint in that as well. So there's endpoint, and that's the first one. Oh, actually, sorry, we want to do just one point here. So there's the first point, and then we switch over to this little doohickey, and then we get the other point. Now it'll calculate between the two. So you see that there's an elevation difference of 1.31. So we kind of wanted to have maybe a foot or more of depth to that ditch, just to have it hold enough water in there to pacify some smaller storms. And of course the distance, that would be the horizontal distance going from here to here horizontally. Then we've got the grade. So 24.92, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but we know slope, 4 to 1. So haha, there's something familiar. And just wanted to show you that quick little tool there. So, you know, if you just wanted to do that again, then we just click the first point, start here, click the second point, and we can end over there. Then you get to see how wide the bottom is. So the bottom is like 2.5 feet. So that's a nice little tool. Just wanted to give you a quick introduction to that. I'll hit escape to get out of that. Another thing just in bare AutoCAD is if you grip, and let's say you wanted to know the horizontal distance, you can hover over one of these grips, and if you have the dynamic input turned on, then you get to see some dimension lines on there. So that would be at least truthful in the horizontal direction. The vertical has an exaggeration, so that's not going to give you much useful information on that, but at least you can see the width of the bottom. So 2.5 feet roughly is pretty cool there. So in the dynamic input, if you go to the little hamburger down here at the bottom right, then that's affectionately known as the hamburger because it looks like one, but it's really the customization button. And so then you go up to dynamic input. You notice that there's no check mark next to the dynamic input, which means it doesn't display here, so you never know whether it's on or off until you start clicking around the screen. It's like, hey, what's all this stuff following my cursor around? That's your dynamic input. So you click that on, and dynamic input is right down here. So you hover over that, and you see that it's on because it's blue. Click it once more and it's turned off. So now you can hover over this thing and you don't get all that groovy stuff on there. But you don't have like all this stuff hanging around your cursor too when you're working as well. So I thought that might be helpful for you. Notice there's no coordinate display by default 2017. Even though this is a civil engineering tool, they decided that Autodesk did that coordinates were not important to have on initially. I think it's important because what can you do is you can click on a grip and that'll show you the elevation of the grip. So that's important. Let's go back to our mind map here. We took a look at some of the inquiry tools here to get the grade between the points, and we saw that the output looks like this. Alrighty, so that's looking pretty good. I suppose I could do my walkthrough on this, but I'm going to be whipping through this kind of fast here. So one thing that you could do is you could have a design profile and then use some labels. You could create the profile from those objects that I put on the screen, but those objects have to be lines. They can't be a polyline. So, but I'm going to skip over that particular exercise here, but I just want you to know that you could set that up with a design profile. And you know, you'd use a design profile if you had something a bit more complex than just this ditch formation here. You know, so if you had to go up, down, and avoid a bunch of utilities and obstacles, stuff like that, then it might be worthwhile to have a design profile in there. That way you get to grip edit it, you get to label it, and that'll give you some more information. But since this is fairly simple, just a little inquiry is going to do the trick for us here. So I'll skip over that little exercise, but I just wanted to interject that that might be part of your workflow too. And I had created a couple of styles for that, but I don't think I'll have time to show that, so I'm just going to skip over that because I was looking at all the stuff. Once I get to the end, it's like, whoa, that's not going to fit in an hour. So You know, you can just have so much fun you get lost in time. All right, so this is what I'm going to do is I want to determine where the top of bank is going to be for this ditch. And the top of bank is going to be like right at the edge of the surface. So if you take a look at this profile here, right at this edge of the surface is something that we can use as a piece of geometry. So what we can do is we can just extract that from this surface here. So this is the final surface of the road, and we want that to just be some geometry that goes all the way down here. And then eventually we're going to turn that into a feature line. So let's take a closer look at how we're going to do that. So if we grip on the surface, the ribbon changes, and we can go to extract objects from a surface. Now you've probably already seen this before, so it's nothing new. We can just extract all. Boom, there it is, it's done. We can use the break command. I'll just type in BR on the command line to get our AutoCAD break command, and then I'm going to break a 3D polyline. So I could shut off the surface, and it might show up a little bit better here as far as what I'm trying to break. Let me just do that. That would probably make sense. So here's our final surface. Change the properties of that, and let's just shut it right off completely. So there's now just a 3D polyline where the surface boundary used to be, and what I'd like to do is just break that off right here. Now if you zoom in kind of close, then you can see the part of the polyline that kind of turns like a blackish color. That's the section that's going to be taken out or removed. So you just want to make sure that you're using that break command going in the correct direction. Otherwise you end up with just a little piece of remaining segment, and then the rest of the polyline goes bye-bye. And that's not what we wanted. So break command again. Yeah, I'll just break it off right about here. There you go. So now the rest of the stuff we can just get rid of. It's just excess baggage, and we'll just use an erase command. So this is a 3D polyline. If you grip on it, it has elevations that match the surface. Now this is why I turned on my coordinate display, because I'm hovering over a grip, and that coordinate display shows 30.37 as the elevation. Okay, so down here, coordinate display. So that's pretty helpful. Now we could convert that into a feature line, and if we wanted to make this just real quick work, then we could just do a stepped offset to the bottom, a stepped offset to the other side of the bottom, and then we could just do like a grading object to daylight into the existing ground on the other side. So that would be like the quick solution. But what I wanted to do was just kind of chew on this a little bit, you know, so to give us some ideas, some more features that we can work on. Okay, so we did the extract objects. We could convert this to a feature line. Now if we convert it to a feature line, then you have all of this decision-making stuff that we have to do inside of here. So if we go through that create feature line process, then let's take a closer look at that. So there's some feature line settings, and then you're going to revisit these create feature line settings over and over and over again. So what I'd like to do is take you into the settings in the tool space and just show you how to tee up the command so it has like the style as the default style that you want to use for this task. Because if you're going to be doing this over and over again, how many times do you want to click in this drop-down list and change the same thing to the same style? And how many times do you want to say, no, my name is not going to acquire the surface name, it's going to acquire the style name. And so the style name would give us the name of the feature line. So stuff like that we can take care of ahead of time, and that'll make your task a lot easier and with fewer steps. So let's take a better look at that. So if we go back into this drawing here, we're going to convert this to a feature line, which means we go to the Home tab in the ribbon and click on Feature Line, create feature lines from objects. And first time through, we just click on the 3D polyline, and then we visit this. And it's like, oh, well, I want this on. So there's one thing that we need to change. I want this to appear differently than just the style here. So I want that to be a FDOT, let's say ditch top to start off with. And of course, we're going to erase the existing entities, and just so the 3D polyline goes away and gets replaced with a feature line. The break line DP, guess that's going to be good enough for the layer. We could browse and find some geometry layers for drainage, but we'll save that for later. And the site, that's not real descriptive for the ditch task that we're going to be working on, so I want to create a new site. And the new site is going to be ditch right, since we might be working on the left side of the road too. All right, click on apply, okie dokie. And this is kind of what I want to see over and over again. Now the name, we don't want that just feature blah blah blah, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. So there's this naming template, and what we'd like to do is use the style name, insert that, and then I'll just do a little separator there with a dash, and we want to use the style name. And of course, if we've selected multiple objects, then it's going to be the same style name. Can't repeat that over and over again. So we'll just do a next counter right here. And so that's the format that we want to use over and over again. But if we keep using the same default settings for the command, then we're going to end up just having to do this work repeatedly. So you don't want to do that. All right, so first time through, we've kind of thought through how we want that to behave. Click okie dokie there, and now we got a feature line. So now let's just go over to the settings tab here and figure out what does feature line really look like. Well, if we go to the create feature lines command here, and we right click and edit the command settings. So this is in the settings tab in the tools base, and some of the stuff that you can do is so the feature line name, that behavior is set off by default. Okay. Now, if you take a look at the feature line name node right here inside the dialog box, down at the bottom here, the description says that the parent is current. So that means that I can't look higher in the stack in here to see where the command setting originates. It originates right here. So it doesn't go up into the grading node or any place else. And so this is what I want to change to true. So there's number one we've taken care of. Now the next thing that we want to do is take a look at the default styles. We don't want generic feature. We want to change that to the FDOT ditch top. And we'll just use that to start off with. If we have to click on the drop-down list, then it'll be real close to some of the adjacent styles because they're all sorted alphabetically. All right, and so then the name format. Let's take a look at the name format. Now, if I highlight that, you can see that the parent is not the parent right here. It's readily apparent that we need to go someplace else. How do you like that pun? Not bad for a Tuesday morning. So I'm going to click on Apply because we're done here. Click OK, and let's go see that AECC grading, which everybody instinctively knows is this grading node right here. So you do a right-click, edit feature settings. Let's go find that same default naming template. Is the parent current? Yes, sirree, Bob. There it is. And we don't want to change that, or we don't want to use that as a feature. We want to change it to the settings that we had before. So we're going to wipe out that nonsense, and we're going to replace that with a style name. So we do insert. Remember, there's a separator here. Change the drop-down list to next counter. Click on insert, and then click okie dokie. Now the command behaves the way we want it to behave. And click on apply, and then OK. So the next time we use the feature line command, it's going to look just like that. So it's going to be just wonderful. Alrighty. So now some of the other things that we wanted to do is let's figure if this is the top of bank and we hold a 4-to-1 slope, then if we want to go down 1.5 feet, that's going to be 6 feet, right? So let's see what the distance is across here, because we're not sure if this is parallel to the center line. And so here's what I want to do, is just a distance command, and I'll find, say, an endpoint here, and then I want to go perpendicular to there, and we click on that, and it says that it's 58 feet. And okay, so that disappeared for a second. So you're looking at 58 feet, and you're saying, I can hold my thumb up to that, and that's not really 58 feet. So what's going on here? Well, delta Z. So that's a slope distance. And I know all you people out there are just so frustrated with slope distance when you say, hey, I want a horizontal distance. How do you do that? Well, and Seth Cohen knows what I'm up to now. It's O snap Z. O snap Z. There you go. And we're just going to toggle that on. And what that does is it says we're going to ignore the Z value. So whenever we're clicking and O-snapping, then we're going to ignore the Z. So we type in distance, and now we find the endpoint again. We go to perpendicular, and look at that. It's really 49. So the command was lying to us before, and now we've got a horizontal distance. So look at that. No more fake news. That looks good. All right, so here we go. If that's 49 feet, let's take another look over here, do another distance command, and see if this is 49. Well, that looks like 49. So the rest of this geometry must be the same. Yes? No, we cannot assume, because that would be something assumable. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's just do an offset command. So I type in the letter O on the command line because I'm a command line junkie. And that number was 49, so let's just offset the center line. Okay, so this is an alignment. And when you offset that, it turns into a polyline, which is pretty exciting news. So now what we can do is we get a feature line and we have a polyline. You can see that the feature line is straying a little bit from that 49 offset from the center line. And the reason why I'm testing this offset ability is because I'm thinking, well, maybe what I want to do is run a profile right down the ditch here and see what kind of design challenges we have, because we don't really know what the existing ground is doing here. We know that we're in a sag curve right here when it comes to the profile because we're familiar with the data set, and I just told you that. So we're going to confirm this. So if we go 49 feet plus, let's say if we wanted to go 6 feet out, because that's going to be at a 4-to-1 slope, it'll be like 1.5 feet deep. So what's 49 plus 6? You got it, 55. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the alignment command here. You see how I brought you down this road where we're really just chewing on this thing. It's like, you know, we're getting paid by the hour, right? So let's just chew on it really good. So here's a create offset alignment. Let's use that command here. We're going to offset the center line. So this is State Road 61 center line. And we're going to play around with some offsets here. So we're going to say that on the left-hand side, because remember the stationing is going in this direction, so we're working on the right-hand side. And we want to go 55 feet, just like that. So one offset, 55 feet. When I was playing around with this thing, I was really rushing, and I ended up putting 55 in here. And it looked so funny because it looked like a whole bunch of contours. You know, every 10 feet, there was another offset alignment 55 times away from here. It was pretty entertaining. And then I looked at that and said, Ryan, you moron. Okay, so now, one thing that you may have done in the past is just blow through this and like use the whole length of the alignment. We don't want to do that. So we're just going to toggle these two things off here. And we want to start from the start and end from the end. But here's our start, somewhere around here. Here's where I want to start. So there's the starting station, and then the ending station, we just clickety-click on this little button, and of course it hesitates way too long, and we want to end it like somewhere out here. So, and you'll see where I'm going with this. All right, so no labels. It's proposed alignment style. That's fine. We just want to see some linear geometry out there, and take a look at the naming template that we have here. So it's the parent alignment name, which side it's on, left or right, and then the offset distance. So perfect for a naming convention that we don't have to fiddle with. All right, so we click okie dokie there. Now here's our ditch bottom. Just think of this as here's the top of bank, there's the ditch bottom, and we're going to have maybe one other offset to form the width of the ditch. bottom, and then we'll have to do some daylighting out there to get to the existing ground. And so that's where we're going to take a look at this alignment first. Let's just go to our hit list and see how we're doing. So we automated the feature line creation, check, and we had some default settings that we looked at there. So now we're going to, let's just close up shop here for a second and get that clutter off the screen. And it's the feature line from alignment. We've investigated the distance away from there. We went to the ditch bottom. We did an offset alignment. That was pretty groovy. And now, drum roll, we're going to do a surface profile. And then we're going to project a feature line to the surface profile. And then we're also going to take the center line design, and we want that to be superimposed on the profile as well. So let's do that. So first off, we need a profile view for our offset alignment, and we can go right to the Home tab in the ribbon, the Profile and Section Views panel title, and then Profile View. Create Profile View. We're going to choose the appropriate alignment, which is the offset alignment here. And well, here's another thing that really bothers me, is I like to see grids. So when I'm doing lots of profile views, I like to see the grid, but that default setting was not set to grid. So we can go back and change that and the settings, but I won't do that now because that'll just burn up the clock. All right, some of the other things we want to see in here, we go to Next, and there's no profile display options here. We should probably do a surface profile first and then get into this next, because we don't have anything to display here. So a little ahead of myself, but that's okay. So if we go over here to create surface profile, now we get to pair that up with the offset alignment and what we want to see. Well, we know it's not going to go through the final surface. It's going to go through the existing surface, and it just might hit that pond surface. So we could just do both of those, add those to the list. And then we can draw that in the profile view. So you clickety-click there, then you have everything set. There's the annoyance, taking care of that. Now we go next, 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 and now we get to see the profile stuff that we're going to display on there. Is it going to have labels? No labels, because that would be a mess to clean up. Click on next. We're not going to do any pipe networks just yet, so that's not selected. And the data bands, that plays our favorite music. And we're not going to do any hatching there because we don't have any eggs. Click on the profile view, and let's just go over here and boom. So there it is. There's the right. So if you take a look at 707 here, let me just, I'll do this. Since we want plan on this side, profile on this side, let's just do something like this. So here's our plan view. Here's our profile view. Notice how I kind of lumped them together so that they look pretty. So at 707, that's just kind of like the low spot here. Let's take a look at our stationing. There's 707 there. So in the sag of the road design is right here where the existing ground also sags. But what does our road design look like? Well, we got a feature line somewhere out here. I think it might be right there. Feature line. What's that feature line look like on here? We know what the existing ground is doing, but this is all design stuff. The design stuff is what we want to see. Existing ground, let's make it look like the existing ground. Let's go to the profile view properties and just change the style of that. So you notice how I did this little grippy thing on the profile object inside the profile view. The ribbon changed. I went right up to the profile view properties, and here we go. Let's find existing. That looks like an existing profile. So I hit escape to clear my grip on that. Now what I'd like to do is, I got too many grid lines. I want to shut those grid lines off. Let's just modify the profile view style to make it look a little cleaner. So we go to the display tab inside the profile view style, and let's go down to grid this, grid that. We're going to find the minor grids are a minor irritant. And so if we toggle those off, Look at that. That feels much better. Okay, now, while we have this selected, what we can do is we can project objects to the profile view. Okay, so we click on that, and what we're thinking is that feature line would look very nice right through here. So let's go to the plan view, let's find the feature line, let's clickety-click on that, and once we've selected that, then we hit enter, and we could just use the object definition. We can just use that style right here, and that'll display just nice in the profile view. So we don't have to change anything. We just click okie dokie. Now, if you take a look at that, it's like, hey, you know, the design is a little bit lower than the existing ground. So what's going to happen with the rest of this? We're going to have a ditch that goes even lower. And then what about this pipe? How low can you go? Well, let's project a pipe into that. So draw parts and profile view is right here because we have the grid selected. Yes. And so that means we have a context sensitive ribbon here. We go to the draw parts in the profile view, click it right there, and there's a pipe here. Now you notice I have selection cycling toggled on. If you haven't seen that new type of bicycle, let's just check that out. So if you go to the customization thingy here, the hamburger, and then you go to the selection cycling, you notice that it's on. But you're like, where is it? Well, you click it on and off, and then you watch down on the status bar, and you notice that it's right here. Aha. And my selection cycling is toggled on. So that means when I select an object here, I get this superimposed rectangles in the quadrant 1 relative to my pick box. So that means when I pick on an object, I get to see like a bunch of stuff, and I want to choose the pipe. Now the pipe just happens to be on the top. That was a good one. The pipe, if it were underneath the alignment, could you really select that easily without selection cycling? Probably not. So let's click on the pipe, and then we're going to project that to the profile view. So it says to select the profile view. So even though I had the profile view selected, it ignored that specific request, and it says, well, you got to do it again. All right, so here it is. Now, did we want to do the whole thing? No, that's an ugly mess. So let's just try that, add network parts. There's a filter that we forgot to toggle on. So let's try that again. So we're going to get our command teed up, draw parts in profile view, and this is easy to miss. You're just blowing and going, and it's like, oh man, I forgot that. So you get down on the command line here, it says selected parts only. So we want to choose that hyperlink, selected parts only. I know some people were saying, Brian, don't do it, it's a trap. And so, yes, it was a trap, but I wanted everybody to fall into the trap just like me so that we can all climb on our shoulders and dig our way out of that trap. Alrighty, so now select the parts to add to the profile view. So right here, selection cycling, we did it again, selected the pipe, and so we're all done selecting objects, and now we go select the profile view. Boom, there we go. Alright, so now, of course, the content of the profile view has a little bit more stuff on the depth there, so it automatically adjusted for showing stuff deeper in there, which means it added another grid line there. So it changed the dynamic range of elevations in the profile view. But this looks rather hideous here. We've got a length of pipe. Now remember, this is going perpendicular to the alignment because the alignment is going down the ditch, and this pipe is crossing that alignment. So this doesn't look like a style that we want to use. So here's what we're going to do, is we're going to go to the profile view properties, and inside the profile view properties then there's a thing called pipe networks. And luckily I didn't have to navigate to that, I just remembered the last time I visited there. So if you take a look at the pipe number 6, it's the only one with a check mark in it, and what we can do is we can do a style override. So you click on this not override, and this is the style that's being used. Currently we want to override that, but we don't have any styles in here that represent a crossing pipe. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this. So this will be creating a new style, very exciting, and this is going to be FDOT drainage pipe crossing. Okay, and the way we want that displayed is we don't want to see wall this, we don't want to see wall that. Well, yes, we do. We want to see the inside crossing wall, we want to see the outside crossing wall, and we also want that hatched. Okay, now we click on apply and OK, and then we click on okie dokie. So now we've done an override. We click on apply and then OK, and so now we've got our cross section of a pipe. There should be like a little hatch in here, but you know, the scale of that probably doesn't look too good. So let's just visit that one more time, just so you can see where we went. Profile view properties. We went to the pipe networks tab here, and then pipe number 6, that's the one that we're working on. So here's the override. Notice how it still picks up the style but not the override style, so we're going to have to go back and choose that one. So it didn't unassign it, it just, when we selected that choice, it just didn't pick the right style. So this is the style that we want to make a change to, and since I already fiddled with this, I'm going to cut to the chase. This, because we're using a vertical exaggeration, the scale on this, if we set this to 0, we're going to make it nice and small. So you click on apply, and then OK, and of course we're a couple of dialog boxes away from the drawing, so you don't see that immediate feedback. If you wanted to go directly and edit this right inside the settings area here, then you could interact with the drawing and kind of do the apply thing. Oh, that looks good. Or apply, oh, it doesn't look good, go back and edit it, and you could do much more iterations much more conveniently rather than going through this interface here. So I'm going to click OK, click on apply, click OK, and it still doesn't look correct. So anyway, I'm not going to beat myself up over that. Now, next thing, let's take a look at what's the depth. Well, there's a depth label that we can do. We can, let's see, annotate a profile view, or let's see if we can just get that context-sensitive ribbon to cooperate here. Then we can add some view labels, and there's a depth label here. So if we wanted to go from somewhere here to somewhere here, then that shows us the depth is 2.7 something. Now this is a straight out of the box depth style for Civil 3D, so it has the undesirable precision. It's just a big long label like this, and it looks pretty nasty. I'm not going to edit that because we got to get through a whole bunch of other stuff. So just wanted to show you that you can do a depth on that. So that tells you from the top of the bank we've got a depth to the top of the pipe at roughly 2.7. So if we wanted to make the ditch 1.5 feet, then that'll leave 1.2 of cover over the pipe. So I guess that'll be okay. And so we're on the right track here. If we do 1.5 feet depth and no more, then we'll be all set. So now what we can do is we can just design a finished ground profile. So if we go here and profile creation tools, then and sampled surface name, we don't like that. So let's just do something a little bit more interesting. I don't see anything real good in the naming template here, so I'm just going to go with my own PGL, and that's going to be for the ditch. Right. How's that? Close enough? All right. And then we can just do a couple of tangents in here. This is visions of last week, isn't it? So if I just do a clickety-click on here to kind of mimic the shape of this feature line, kind of like that. And then what we want to do is we want to drop that down so it's 1.5 feet lower. Now what I'm going to do is I can make a feature line from an alignment. So I want to show you that tool, even though it might not be the most efficient for the design process here. We could continue this so it actually goes all the way up and daylights to the existing ground. I did it on that side and got lazy on that side there. So let's do this. Let's say that we want to copy this, and we want to copy that to a specific depth, or we can move that. So here's some tools up here in the profile layout tools that allow us to say raise and lower PVIs. Let's try that. So if we do an elevation change, we do it the whole length of this, and of course that's acting upon our design profile here. So we're going to do a minus 1.5. We're going to apply that to the entire range. And look at that. So now we've got our design elevation for the ditch bottom. We can move this label just to prove that this is going to give us the desired result. So I got 1.2 there and change. So that looks pretty good. And of course, this label right here is, when we get to the top of the pipe. There we go. Doesn't matter where this is. It's only calculating the vertical difference between this grip and that grip. So you can lean it way over like that, and it's still going to give you that reported value as the vertical distance. Okay? Just wanted you to be aware of that. So even though that looks really long, it's just the vertical distance. Okay, so there we go. Now what we can do is let's just create a feature line from this offset alignment. And what you can do is you can make that dynamically associated with the alignment if it has a profile. So we saw hints of that right here in our little hit list. So surface profiles. Another thing that we could do is we could superimpose a profile, so we could pull that off of another. I'm going to skip over that now because I want to make sure we get enough time to jam through the rest of this here. All right, so then profile view, we're going to do a 55-foot offset, so I guess we're kind of repeating ourselves here. The ditch feature line to the profile view, we projected that. We did the crossing pipe view style, and so looking at that, we've got a dimension. Another thing that I didn't show you, which I'm going to skip over for now, is you could make a AutoCAD dimension for use in just a profile view and just change the vertical exaggeration on that. So you could apply a scale factor to that, and that way you could use just regular AutoCAD dimensions for this kind of labeling, because maybe you like the format better and you don't have to fiddle around with the other style that wasn't formatted to the way we like to see the output. So yeah, you could create a pipe crossing style, which we did, and then we could add a depth dimension, and I just did the one with the profile view depth. So just wanted to go through those things, and now we can design the ditch bottom profile, which we did. Okay, so we're going to get to the grading tools here. We could use a stepped offset, so we could get the ditch bottom on there. So let's take a look at that next. All right, so here's the inside edge of the ditch bottom, and we need to turn that into a feature line. So I'm going to dismiss that little toolbar there. Feature line from alignment. Okay, so we're going to select the alignment. Here's the alignment right here, and that's going to be the ditch right. So look at all this groovy stuff that we had. Now, because this was the create feature line from alignment, when I changed the setting in here, that was just create feature line, you know, probably from an object. But, you know, so this is a different group of settings. That's why the name was not toggled on by default. However, I hit the parent with this little jobby right here, and so we get to suck that right in, which is pretty cool. And then this is the drainage pond profile, which is what we want to associate that with. That's the, now we want the PGL. That's the design right here, okay? So we got that, and the style, well, we kind of failed there, so, but this is going to be a FDOT ditch bottom style, okay? And then the style name is we're going to be using for the name of this feature line. So that's all good. And of course, we've got some weighting and supplementing factors and stuff like that that we can just use as the default values. Create the dynamic link to the alignment. That would not be available to us if we didn't have any profiles, so we got plenty of profiles there. And we've got the correct design profile, which is what we wanted to use to control the elevations of the feature line. So we click okie dokie there. And then here's some weighting, and of course we only have 9 vertices. You don't want to weight anything else from there. So there you go. So now we got a feature line. Now we could do a stepped offset of that feature line. Let's just see if it's tied to this. If it's an auto feature line, are we going to be able to use a stepped offset on that? Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes I've had difficulty with that. I don't remember. whether that's going to be a problem or not. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify a feature line. So you click on the Modify tab, we're going to click on Feature Line, so get all the feature line tools, and we're going to be editing geometry where we're going to find stepped offset. Dun, dun, dun. Some dramatic music there. And so we specify the offset distance. Now we wanted this bottom to be roughly, well, we saw it at 2.5 feet before. Let's just say we're going to go with 2 feet, just to round it off. So there's 2 feet. Select an object to offset. We do auto feature line. And what's it say there? Specify the side. So we do a left click. And now we get to specify the elevation difference. Well, this is going to be a flat bottom, so there's going to be a 0 elevation difference. We can just accept that as the default with the angular brackets, and then the command will rinse and repeat. So we're just going to hit escape to get out of that command. Take a look at this. We've got a feature line. Oop, it looks a bit broken in the geometry. That's only a display flaw. That's not actual broken geometry. Not to worry. So we have 3 pieces to the puzzle here. We've got a feature line at the top, a feature line at the bottom, a feature line at the other side of the bottom. And now we need to dig our way out of this hole and get back to daylight. Okay, so put your Gopher tools on and let's go for it. So you click on the Home tab and the ribbon, you go to the Create Design panel title, and then we go to some grading tools. Okay, so this is going to start off our manufacturing of the surface. So what do we want to do? We want to choose the appropriate grading group. We've got ditch right. Now that's where we stuffed all our feature lines in there, but now we're going to create a grading group. And I'll get to that on the tool space here in just a fraction of a second. It may be a little bit longer. Okay, so here's the grading group, and this is going to be our ditch right. Okay. We're going to have automatic surface creation, so we're going to start creating a terrain model just from this grading object, and then we're just going to add some more stuff to it, and then, but we'll be doing that inside of the prospector. So use the group name, so ditch right, that's going to be our surface name. The surface style, well, we don't need to see contours just yet. You might want to see triangles eventually, but don't get ahead of yourself. All right, so then we could calculate a volume. The terrain model above the ditch is just going to be existing ground because we've got a design that stops at this blue line. We've got another design for the road that stops at the top of the ditch because remember we extracted that object from it, and so it's just existing ground in between there. So that's what we'll use for a volume-based surface. So there's the existing ground. So that's the grading group creation. And of course, since we're creating a surface, then there's the surface information that is going to be added to the prospector eventually. So there's ditch right. Okay, we've got our target surface, that's here. The layer, let's just investigate that real quick. Oh, layer 0, that would be a standards violation, so we don't want to do that. And this is going to be drainage something or other, so I'm going to just start here with letter D. And ditch, that looks good. So let's just whip this thing on a ditch layer. Okay, maybe I chose the wrong one, and somebody will be waving the flag out there. Violation, violation, wrong layer. That's okay. We'll tough it out. Okay, now the selection set criteria, that should default to FDOT, but it doesn't, so we might have to pound on the settings inside of here to get that correct, but we'll do that another time. There's the FDOT grading set. That's the one that we want to use because it's very exciting. And we're going to be daylighting to a surface. So this is a slope to a surface, and the slope that we want to use is going to be a 4:1 slope. So there's 4:1 slope to surface. Remember, we're coming out of the bottom of the ditch and we're heading up. So it'll be a cut situation. So we come over here and we're going to create a grading. We'll do the full length of our feature line. Okay, so we click on that, and let's go see our feature line right here. So there's the ditch bottom. Remember, this is a 2-foot wide ditch bottom, so we're going to grade this side out and figure out where it hits the existing ground. So we click on that. There's the grading side. Apply to the entire length. Yeah, huh? And there we go. Luckily, that didn't go into the pond area there, so there's just this little strip of existing ground, which we're not going to touch, so there's still going to be grass on there from the original concept, and there it is. So we've got a surface, we've got a grading object that is just the only part of our surface right now, and it goes all the way up to here. So that looks pretty good. Now we just need to throw all the other stuff into this and turn it into a real surface. Now we might have to do some patchwork on this area up here, but you know the drill. And it looks like we wanted to go a little bit further with that, so that means we probably needed to go a little bit further with our design. But that should have gone, well, that was an offset. So that means our design profile stopped there. Yeah, we just need to extend that a little bit, but you know the concept is the same there. Alrighty, so select the feature line. We're all done with that, so we're not going to do any more grading, so I'm going to hit escape to get out of that command. If you just hit enter, it doesn't do anything, so you got to hit escape to get out of that particular command. Alrighty, now what I'd like to do is to finish this off by adding some feature lines on here, and I'll be doing that by going over to the surface, definition, break lines, right click, add, and this is just going to be feature lines of ditch. Okay, there's a lot of typing for you. We're not going to do any weeding and supplementing on that, so we've figured out that the geometry by itself is good enough. So there's the ditch bottom there, auto feature line, there's the top of bank. Now remember that blends into the design surface here, so that we don't need to worry about daylighting on this side, and there's a feature line. Boom. So the surface display is shut off. So let's just take a look at the surface properties here. Let's just set this to, let's try triangles design purple. That's pretty groovy for today. So yeah, we got a little bit more feature lining type work that we could do at this end here. It looks like we're kind of okay. We could probably do some more supplementing there because it looks like we probably could just add some more detail to the feature line. Now this is an auto feature line, so what we probably should do is just add some more detail, some more vertices here, because that's going to populate this feature line with additional PVIs. But for now, let's just see what it looks like in the object viewer. So we grip on the surface, we click on the object viewer, and with a vertical exaggeration, that would look just fantastic. Without it, it's just a flat little divot, and but you can see it's nice and smooth there. So it looks like it's going to fit in there. It's not going to conflict with any other adjacent designs, so we're just going to go with that. Alrighty, and that brings us to the top of the hour. Let's take a look at our mind map, see if we've done everything. Grade to the surface, site grading target, and then the ditch surface. We've got a grading group, the feature lines. We can do a surface boundary on that, and then we can display that in the object viewer. So I'm going to say mission accomplished for now for the time limit that we had.